Good morning and welcome to today's morning mobility session. This is a live class that we are doing a chair-friendly version for today. So if you don't have a folding chair or a dining chair and you're here with us live, go grab one for a moment. I'll take a second to ease into our exercises, but all of these are going to be done in the seated position. For those of you that may struggle getting down to the floor and back up, this is going to be one that you can repeat and go to that is seated in a chair the whole time, but you'll still get a great full body mobility session. So if you have your chair ready, make sure that you have some space around you as well so that you're not going to hit anything with your arms. And we are going to start with our first exercise. So with these, we're going to do a seated calf raise. This really targets our soleus part of our calf muscle. And with a lot of these chair exercises, you want to make sure to have a really tall posture. So pay attention to that and you'll get even more out of all these exercises. But we're going to start by lifting up onto your toes as high as you can, lifting the heel and then dropping them back down. You can be however far back on your chair as is comfortable. I'm lifting up my heels onto my toes and coming back down. Again, core stays engaged. I'm hanging out at the top for just a moment so that I'm not immediately dropping back to the ground. And this is working our calf strength, but also our ankle mobility is what we're really working here. By pointing that foot, we're elongating the front part of our ankle, lifting up, and thinking about your calves can make sure that it's a really active mobility exercise. Lifting up, lowering back down, up as high as you can, back down. We'll do one more, and back down. You'll stay seated for our next exercise. I'm going to show you this one from the side so that I don't run into my wall here, but you can stay seated facing forward. You're going to start with your hands behind your head in this prisoner hands position, and then you're going to rotate towards one side and open up your arms, come back, and then go the other way, and your head will move in the direction that you're facing. Head forward, to the side, head forward, and to the side. So again, nice tall posture, taking your time with each exercise, really trying to maintain an open chest and shoulder position, even as you bring the hands back to the behind the head position. They don't need to tug on the head at all. I'm just essentially touching my fingers together behind my head before turning to face the other direction. You might notice one side feels a little bit more open than the other. That's totally normal. We'll do one more on each side. And rest. Good. Then we'll come back to a exercise just facing forward or staying as you were. We're going to have feet a little bit wider for this one and do a hip internal rotation. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to even scooch a little bit towards the front center of my chair, and then I'm going to think about moving my knee inward as far as I can and then pulling it back out. Going to do one side at the time. I'm not pushing it. Sometimes just having your hand on the knee can help with doing that movement and pulling it back out. Make sure you're not twisting at the hip or the torso. We're wanting all that rotation in our pelvis and our hip socket to work the internal rotation of that hip joint. Again, nice and controlled. My toe is staying on the ground, but my heel is lifting a little bit. That's okay. And now we'll try for the other side. Bringing that knee inward, but not twisting or rotating at the torso. You may notice this other leg wants to move a little bit. That's okay, but if you can keep it still, try to do so. Good. Noticing if you can get a little bit more rotation. If you feel any pinching or any pain, just reduce the range of movement, maybe only going this far or shortening it. But if you can get that full range of motion, think about your femur rotating in your hip socket and pulling back out. One more on this side. And rest. Very good. Now we'll repeat this circuit. I know you can barely see my feet, but you know the drill. We're going to lift up onto your toes and back down, getting as much range of motion as you can. I have just a little bit of space between my feet, not all the way together, not super far apart. And I'm staying nice and tall, a little bit of core engagement. Thinking about those calves raising up the heels and gently controlling it back down to the ground. Big lift up and down. We'll do 2 more of these. And last one. And then for the second one, we can stay facing forward. Sit up nice and tall. Start with the hands behind your head and then rotate open and back to the hands behind the head position. It's okay if you're not twisting completely open to the side. Just go with what's comfortable. And as you do more of these or you get more warmed up or your mobility improves over time, you might notice that you're able to get a little bit more open position or a little bit more of a twist. This is obviously great for engaging the muscles in our upper back and between our shoulder blades, opening up the chest, and that twist also working a little bit of mobility at the sides. We'll do 3 more of these. 3, 2, and last one. Wonderful. And then bringing it back for our third one, that internal rotation for our hip mobility. Wider stance for this one, still core engaged, keeping the other leg still as you bring one knee inward and back out, inward and back out. If it even helps to have one hand on your hip and one on your knee so you can really think about that movement, feel free. And I'm just slightly pivoting off of my toe. Toe is on the ground, but my heel is slightly off the ground. And just going at your own pace, not too fast, so that you have to really control that movement inward and pulling back outward. Last one on this side, and then other side. And reposition, engage that core, drop that knee in, and pull it back out. Oftentimes, we're good at remembering to do the external rotation or the abduction, but we forget about the internal rotation or adduction, which is bringing things together close to the point of the body, which is also a really important thing to do for maintaining that full range of motion at a given joint. Even I notice that I have to think about staying a little more still on this side in order not to move. So that's why it's good to work each side independently. Last one for this leg, and rest. Wonderful. We'll move on to our second circuit, which starts with a neck mobility exercise. We're going to be looking over each shoulder. So start with a conservative range of motion versus trying to look all the way behind you, but just look over your shoulder, keeping that movement at the neck, and then do the other side, looking over the other shoulder. If you feel any discomfort, just shorten the range of motion and only look towards the side. But if you can, and it feels okay on the neck, look back over your shoulder as far as you can without creating that movement from the shoulder. Just create the movement at your neck. We all probably know the functionality of this exercise. If you drive a car, being able to look back at each blind spot is a nice ability to have. And it's very normal for one side to feel quite different from the other, especially given sleeping positions. And so it's good to work each side independently. Last one, and rest. Good. Our second exercise is going to be some shoulder shrugs. So with this one, start by thinking about pulling your shoulders away from your ears. That's going to be our elongated position. And then we're going to shrug your shoulders up as high as you can. And then again, pull them back down. I'm not just resting at a normal shoulder position, but I'm bringing them up as high as I can and then pulling them down as low as I can. If you have your hands at your sides, you can even think about your fingertips lifting away from the ground and then reaching your fingertips down towards the ground, like there's a magnet pulling them downwards. Again, up nice and tall for this one, making sure you're not stooped over at the shoulders if you can help it. Just as tall as you can be. It's okay if it's not stick straight. Everybody's natural resting position is a little bit different. Good, and one more. And rest. Good. And then our third one is going to be a one leg straightening. We're going to alternate sides. So again, nice and tall posture. If you need to scoot back to use the back support in your chair, you can. I'm just going to straighten one leg out in front of me and then bring it back down. Now we're trying to straighten it as high as we can without bringing it above the same height as your other femur. So if you can keep your quads even and extend your leg, that's great. If your leg needs to stay a little lower to the ground, that's also okay. Again, engaging that core to be really nice and tall. This one is a little hamstring stretch as we straighten, and it's engagement of that quad and hip flexor. Sometimes I like to have my hands here just to make sure I'm engaging that core and not just relying on leaning back, but staying nice and tall. We'll do one more on each side. And rest. Good. Take a breath for a moment and then we'll return to that first exercise, looking over either shoulder. So when you're ready, go into those. Again, taking your time, going at your own pace, seeing what range of motion is safe and feels good for you. Maybe now that it's the second round, you're able to look a tiny bit further, but if not, totally okay to just aim directly to the side. And then over time, you could slowly move that point that you look towards a little bit further backward. Kind of pausing in the middle with your head straight forward. It's a nice way to help make sure you don't get dizzy. And we'll do one more over each shoulder. Rest. Good. All right, then hands at your sides. If you need to scooch a little bit forward in your seat, you can. That second exercise is our shoulder shrug and pulling them away from the ears. Shrugging up and reaching those fingertips down. Big shrug up and down. So these are working some of our neck muscles, mostly our traps, which are these muscles right on top of your shoulders at the base of your neck. And oftentimes they can be quite tense. And so this pulling the shoulders down is a great way for them to learn what that feels like. Sometimes we can get a little bit stuck holding that tension in our neck. And so even throughout the day, just thinking of pulling those shoulders down can be a nice way to remind yourself not to hold that tension in your neck. But we all often hold some tension there, so don't feel bad if you do. Just making sure to relax those muscles or massage them occasionally is a really nice thing for the posture. One more. And back down. Alrighty, and then our third one is that single leg alternating straightening. Nice and tall, core is engaged, lifting one leg straight out, engaging that quad, other leg, and back down. Key for this one, it's much easier if you quickly kick your leg out, so make sure you're keeping it controlled. It's totally okay if that heel is really close to the ground when you extend it. It does take a bit of strength and hamstring flexibility to keep that foot a little bit elevated off the ground. So just meet your range of motion and your strength where it's at today. We'll do 2 more on each side. 3, 2, 1, then rest. Alrighty, we're heading into our third circuit. And so that one is going to start with a wrist mobility exercise. You might be used to the wrist circles that we often do, or wrist movement that's forward, backward. We're going to do a lateral wrist mobility exercise. So I usually just have my hands right here. You could also have them in this position, but I'm going to think about moving my thumbs toward my forearm and my chest, and then pushing away from me. So from the side, I'm pulling that thumb towards me, and then away from me. Towards me, you may not be able to get very far in that direction. It's a little bit different. But then pull your pinky towards the other forearm. So this is one, the more you do it, the more you can kind of develop the ability to move in that direction. And it might kind of wake up that range of motion, since we're so used to doing wrist mobility more front to back or in those circles. So again, really slow, thinking about pulling that thumb towards you, trying to make sure your wrists aren't bending like this, but just staying really straight forwards and backwards. Then rest. Good. Our second exercise is going to be a seated cat-cow. So for this one, similar to when we've done it in the hands and knees position, We're going to start by bringing the hands forward and trying to round as much as possible, and then bring your arms back and try to squeeze your shoulder blades together. I'll show you from the side. I'm rounding as much as possible, and then bringing my hands back and trying to arch at the back. So just go at your own pace and work within whatever range of motion feels comfortable for you. It might feel really good in that rounded position, and you can hold it for a moment. And then think about squeezing your shoulder blades together, arching the back as you do opposite positions. Super rounded, and then arched, squeezing the shoulder blades together. Rounded and arched. One more. Rounded and arched. Very good. And then our third one is going to be a double leg lift. The good news is you get to keep your knees bent. Do sit up nice and tall, but I'm going to raise one knee up a little further, and then lower it back down. We're going to alternate sides. Lift your knee, lift it a little higher, and then lower it back down. So it's a double lift, really engaging our hip mobility, that hip flexor, lift higher and back down. Try to make sure you're not shifting too much side to side as you do this one. And again, keeping it really controlled, kind of even robotic in that movement. Lift higher and down. One more time on each side and down. Very good. We'll run through these one more time. So taking a little breath here, and then we'll go back to that wrist lateral movement, starting with your hands here. Then I'm going to bring the thumbs towards me and then push away from me. Your towards amount of movement will be likely significantly less than your away amount of movement. That's totally expected, so don't worry if that's the case. And you can have your fingers spread if that helps you, or you can have fingers together. That's up to you. And keep it really controlled. You might even kind of feel some wrist, forearm, and finger muscles that you don't normally feel. It's always a good sign. We'll do 2 more of these and 1 more. Good. Alrighty, then our second one is going to be the seated cat-cow. So again, for this one, taking your time, rounding at the spine, and then squeezing the shoulder blades together as you arch. I'll show you again a few from the side. Rounding and arching. Again, having the hands kind of follow that movement really helps with making sure to squeeze the shoulder blades all the way together. It's one of the few times you're invited to be hunched over is in that cat position. Rounding and pulling, almost like you're trying to pull your chest forward out in front of you. We'll do 2 more, round and arch, round and arch. Very good. And coming back for our third exercise, that double leg lift. Keeping the knees bent, I keep my feet flexed, not pointed, nice and tall, and then raise higher, down, raise your leg, raise it higher, and back down. And so if you want something to focus on, you can think about that hip flexor muscle, which is right in that hip crease when you're seated. You should be able to feel it engage as you lift up that leg. Again, real slow and controlled for these movements. Taking your time, noticing the differences from one side to the other, and trying not to shift too much side to side as you do these. We'll do one more on each side. And rest. Very good. Okay, we have 2 exercises left. I'm gonna point my camera a little bit down so that you can see my feet for the first one. It's gonna be a toe lift to scrunch. So with this, I'm going to lift my toes off the ground, leaving my heels on the ground, scrunch my toes in, straighten them back out, and then lower my foot back to the floor. Lifting toes, scrunching them, straightening, and back down. Lift, curl those toes, straighten them, and back down. Obviously, this one's a little bit easier to do barefoot. Not impossible to do with shoes. If you have shoes on and you don't want to take them off, and it's hard to do the toe curl part of the movement, you can just do the toe lifts. So you'll notice these are essentially the opposite of those calf raises that we started with. This one getting a little mobility on the back side of the ankle and engaging that tibialis anterior, the front shin muscle. It's okay to strengthen all these muscles around our ankles, and really a good thing for walking on unstable surfaces. If you ever wear heels, it's nice to have all those muscles at the foot and the ankle ready to move. Last one. And rest. Good. Just bringing my camera back up for our last one. Is going to be a side to side neck mobility. So keep your gaze forward and then just drop one ear towards the shoulder and then bring it back to center. Just like with our other neck exercise, don't force that range of motion. Just stay in a place that's really comfortable, but that you might feel a little bit of a stretch as you move that neck to the side. And keeping that gaze steady is something that can help with not feeling dizzy at all. And make sure, check in on the rest of the body. Make sure it's not doing anything funky or moving around. Last one. And rest. And I'll show you this first one from the side. We'll repeat these 2 one more time. It's going to be toe lift, scrunch, straighten back out, and then rest the feet back down. Toe lift, scrunch, and back down. Lift, curl those toes, straighten them, back down, staying nice and tall. It's okay if the toes don't get very far off the ground. There's only so far away from the ground we can lift the toes anyways. Might feel some of those muscles being woken up. And we'll do 2 more. Lift, scrunch, straighten, down. Last one, lift, scrunch, straighten, and back down. Very good. And then our last thing of the day, that side to side neck mobility. Up nice and tall, just resetting that posture. Drop one ear to the shoulder, pull back up. Other ear to shoulder, pull back up. Taking your time, noticing how your body feels after this movement. Hopefully, even though just seated, sometimes the limitation of that can help us to work things in a different way that can be just as challenging as doing them standing or on the floor or on all fours or laying down. So if you liked today's class and the chair option is something that you either need or really like, make sure to leave a comment and make sure to check out the HelloStrengthSeniors Instagram page for more educational information, different types of content, and also ways to support these videos. And rest. Alrighty, nicely done. I hope that you feel a little bit warmer, ready to go do a workout or go on a walk or ready to tackle the rest of your day. If you enjoyed this workout, please send it to a friend, share it on your Instagram page and tag at HelloStrengthSeniors if you want. And we will see you next Tuesday for more morning mobility.